You're 3 days into the collapse, and you've just found it. A pristine mountain stream, crystal clear, sunlight dancing through the water like liquid glass. It looks cleaner than anything that ever came out of your tap back when taps still worked. Your throat is sandpaper. Your lips are cracking, and every cell in your body is screaming for hydration. So you kneel down, cup your hands, and drink deeply. Because clear water is safe water, right? Wrong. You just made the mistake that kills more survivors in the first 2 weeks than starvation, exposure, and violence combined. Because here's what nobody tells you about water in a world without infrastructure. The deadliest threats are always invisible, and by the time you feel the symptoms, your body is already at war with itself. Clear water isn't just dangerous, it's a perfect killer. And understanding why requires you to completely rewire everything you think you know about hydration and survival. The first thing you need to understand is that water clarity has absolutely nothing to do with water safety. Nothing. The relationship between how water looks and what's living inside it is pure coincidence. That stream you just drank from could be flowing through a meadow where a dead elk has been decomposing upstream for a week, seeping cadaver juice loaded with Clostridium perfringens into the watershed. Or maybe it's pristine wilderness, but 300 yards up the mountain, there's a beaver dam. And beaver fever, Giardiasis, doesn't care how pretty the scenery is. Giardia lamblia is a protozoan parasite that lives in the intestines of mammals and turns your digestive system into a biological disaster zone. The cysts survive for months in cold water. They're resistant to freezing, and they're completely invisible. You can have millions of them per liter in water so clear you can count pebbles on the stream bed. The incubation period is 1 to 3 weeks, which means you won't connect your decision to drink with the explosive diarrhea, the cramping, the nausea, and the dehydration that follows. And here's the vicious irony. Giardia makes you desperately thirsty while simultaneously making it nearly impossible for your body to absorb water. You drink, and you keep getting more dehydrated, a slow-motion death spiral that's entirely preventable if you just understood the enemy. But Giardia is just the opening act. Cryptosporidium is worse because it's smaller, tougher, and even more resistant to treatment. Crypto can survive in chlorinated water that would kill most bacteria. It laughs at iodine tablets. It can remain infectious in recreational water for days, and in cold water, potentially months. When crypto hits, you're looking at watery diarrhea up to 20 times a day, severe dehydration. And if your immune system is already compromised by stress, malnutrition, or injury, it can be fatal. There's no specific treatment for crypto. You ride it out, you try to stay hydrated, and you hope your body wins the war before you collapse from fluid loss. And just like Giardia, crypto lives in crystal clear water flowing through the most beautiful landscapes on Earth. The stream that looks like a nature documentary is actually a pathogen highway, and every gulp is a dice roll with your life. Then we have the bacteria. E.coli, Campylobacter, Salmonella, Shigella, all of them love water, all of them come from fecal contamination, and all of them can turn your intestines inside out. E. coli 0157H7 produces Shigella toxin that can cause kidney failure. Campylobacter gives you bloody diarrhea and fever that can last for weeks. Shigella is so contagious that it only takes 10 to 100 organisms to infect you, which means one contaminated water source can take down an entire group. And here's what makes it worse in a collapse scenario. These bacteria thrive when sanitation fails. Every time someone doesn't bury their waste properly, every corpse that decomposes near water, every animal that dies upstream, the bacterial load increases. The water looks exactly the same, but the invisible threat multiplies exponentially. You're not just gambling with nature anymore. You're gambling with the accumulated contamination of every person and animal in the watershed who's already made mistakes or already died. So let's talk about what actually works. Because fear without solutions is just paralysis, and paralysis kills you just as bad water. Boiling is your absolute gold standard. your non-negotiable ace in the hole, because heat destroys everything. Bring water to a rolling boil for 1 minute at sea level, 3 minutes if you're above 6,000 feet where water boils at a lower temperature. This kills bacteria, viruses, protozoan cysts, everything. The problem is fuel. Boiling consumes wood or propane or whatever you're using for fire, and in a long-term survival situation, fuel is a currency you can't afford to waste. You need to balance safety against resources, which means you need multiple purification strategies. Filtration is your next line of defense, but here's where people make critical mistakes. Not all filters are created equal. A standard camping filter with a 0.2 micron pore size will catch bacteria and protozoan cysts, but viruses are smaller, down to 0.02 microns, and they slip right through. In North America, waterborne viruses are less common than in developing countries, but in a collapse scenario where sewage systems fail and human waste contaminates water supplies, viruses like hepatitis A and norovirus become real threats. You need a purifier rated for viruses, not just a filter, or you need to combine filtration with chemical treatment. Chemical treatment is your lightweight backup, but it's not foolproof. Iodine and chlorine dioxide tablets kill bacteria and viruses effectively, but they're slow against protozoan cysts, especially in cold water. Giardia cysts can survive iodine treatment if the water is near freezing, which means in winter survival scenarios, you're looking at extended treatment times, up to 4 hours, or you're accepting risk. Crypto-resistant ponds sell camel fire. And here's the detail that gets people killed. Chemical treatments lose effectiveness over time. Those tablets you packed 5 years ago and forgot about might be degraded to the point of uselessness, and you won't know until you're already sick. Temperature, light exposure, and moisture all accelerate degradation, which means your backup purification method might already be dead weight in your kit. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. Now, let's talk about the water sources themselves, because not all natural water is equally dangerous, and knowing the hierarchy of risk can save your life when you're making decisions under pressure. The safest natural water is rainwater collected directly before it touches any surface. It's essentially distilled by the evaporation and condensation cycle. But the moment rain hits a roof, a tarp, or the ground, it picks up contamination. Second tier is flowing water from high elevations, away from human and animal activity, preferably from a spring source rather than surface runoff. Third tier is fast-moving streams and rivers, because flowing water dilutes contamination and doesn't give pathogens time to concentrate. Fourth tier is standing water, ponds, lakes, puddles, where pathogens accumulate and reproduce. And last ditch, never unless you're literally dying tier, is water near human habitation, downstream of farms, or anywhere you see animal feces on the banks. These are biological minefields, and drinking from them untreated is essentially suicide on a delayed fuse. But here's the psychological trap that kills people. Desperation overrides judgment. When you're severely dehydrated, your cognitive function deteriorates. Your decision-making becomes impaired at around 2% body water loss. At 5%, you experience fatigue, headache, and difficulty concentrating. At 10%, you're approaching medical emergency territory, muscle spasms, delirium, and circulatory collapse. The cruel irony is that when you most need to make smart decisions about water, your brain is least capable of making them. This is why you need protocols established before the crisis. Automatic habits that don't require conscious thought. Never drink untreated water. No exceptions, no matter how clear it looks. Always have multiple purification methods. Always collect from the cleanest source available. These rules have to be so deeply ingrained that even when you're cognitively impaired, even when you're desperate, you still follow them. And then there's the long-term consequence nobody talks about. Chronic parasitic infection in a world without medical care. Giardia and crypto can become chronic conditions, causing ongoing diarrhea, malnutrition, and weakness that never fully resolves. In a survival scenario, This turns you from a capable survivor into a liability, someone who can't carry weight, can't keep up, can't contribute. The person who drank bad water 3 weeks ago is now the person slowing down the group, burning through resources, potentially dying slowly from complications. Waterborne illness doesn't just kill you quickly, it can kill you slowly, by making you incapable of doing what survival demands. Every time you drink untreated water, you're not just risking acute illness, you're risking becoming permanently compromised in a world that doesn't forgive weakness. So here's your reality check. Water that looks clean is not clean, and the invisible is always more dangerous than the visible. Clear water kills more people in survival situations than any other single factor, and it kills them because they trusted their eyes instead of their knowledge. In a world without infrastructure,
water purification isn't optional, it's not paranoid, it's the absolute baseline of survival. Boil when you can, filter what you can't boil, treat chemically when you can't filter, and source from the cleanest water available. Your life depends on making these processes automatic, non-negotiable, as reflexive as breathing. Because when society collapses and the taps run dry, the person who understands that clear water equals death is the person who lives long enough to rebuild.